Well, hello. Welcome back to this week's Soul Search Sunday with Johnny Tiger. Uh, it's almost hard to say this is Soul Search Sunday because it's almost midnight now, and yeah, uh, I must say I really left it till the last minute today because I was doing a bit of house cleaning, which took longer than it should because I had to repair a vacuum cleaner. Then it took a little bit longer to clean the gunks and junks and all that crap out of the canister afterward. Um, and then I found myself really tired and just didn't really have much of a inspiration. So I had to sit down for a while, clear my head, have a sip of water, and think of what I want to talk about on Soul Search Sunday. Anyway, the date is July 12th, 2020, soon to be July 13th, 2020. You know, it is kind of interesting that today we hear about bullying all the time. It seems to be a big problem. And people seem to have this idea that bullying is something that only counts if it happened on the internet or if it happened in school. As if once you become an adult, that problem magically will go away on its own. At very least, after you grow up, if you say someone bullying you, suddenly it seems like no one really cares. If you are at work and you go to tell your supervisor or your boss someone is bullying you, just hope this person doing the bullying is not said supervisor or boss. So let's say a coworker is giving you some attitude, and you go and report them for bullying you. Very few supervisors or bosses will actually take care of it until the situation escalates out of hand. And if you go to the boss and said, I find that so and so is bullying me because they every time they talk to me, they're really rude and really mean, and when I ask them questions, they don't want to answer. So then most likely your boss, your supervisor, is going to tell you to deal with it like an adult, man up, and just find other way of obtaining your information. Now, when we want to talk about bullying, you know, who are the biggest bullies in my experience? Old people. Yes, those grandfatherly, grandmotherly, nice little elderly folks sometimes can be the biggest bully of them all because they reached an age where they believe that no matter what they say to you, or even if they get a little bit physical with you, you're not going to do anything. They can get away with a lot more than you or I because they are old. What are you going to do to them? For example, if I was to be having a conversation with a friend, even if it was a good friend, let's say if I was having a conversation with a good female friend, not my girlfriend, but just like a female friend, even if we were really good friends, if in the middle of our conversation I casually put my hand on their legs or casually throw an arm around their shoulders, most likely I am not going to hear the end of it. At the very least, they're going to say something very nasty and probably call me some names that I deserve. Uh, or most likely, I'm going to be up for sexual harassment charges very soon. However, I have seen again and again uh, elderly people. I have friends, male friends in the 70s and 80s, And they can do that. They can sit down with a young lady, maybe 40 years, maybe 50 years their junior, and they can sit down and they can have a nice conversation like a grandfather talking to a granddaughter, and then suddenly they can uh, put a hand on their legs or they can put an arm around their shoulder, and at the most, these young ladies will just squirm and look very uncomfortable, but they don't do anything. They will not make a big fuss about it because they're old. A week or so ago, I was talking to my father on the phone, and we talked about the current pandemic in this world. My father asked me, "So when you go out, do you wear a mask?" I said, of course, I wear a mask. That is what you're supposed to do." And my father, rather loud and proudly, declared to me that he does not wear a mask, and he's proud of it, and no one can make him wear one. So I asked him, I said, "Well, why? Like, aren't you afraid of catching the virus?" My dad basically said, "I'm almost 80 years old. I'm slowly losing my mind because of dementia. What do I have to fear from a virus? I actually wish I catch the virus so I can leave this world with some kind of dignity rather than being a blithering idiot." I asked him, so how about other people? Uh, aren't you worried about what other people think when they see that you don't have a mask on? My father told me, he said, "Well, a lot of people ask me and a lot of people try to lecture me, but what I tell them is, hey, you are afraid of the virus. You wear a mask. I'm not afraid of a virus, so I don't wear a mask. You do your thing, I do my thing." But what about other people? Like, aren't you afraid? Like, you might pass it on to other people? Aren't, aren't you being a little bit selfish? That's what I asked him. And my father said, "Look at it from my point of view. I don't even care about myself catching the virus. Why would I care if anyone else catch it from me?" And that really brought home as how sometimes the old people that once they get to a certain age, once they come down with a certain condition, some kind of ailment, they reach this point where they believe they're above the law, they're above common decency, they're above social etiquette. They can do anything, say anything, and what are you going to do? They're old. In my personal experience, I can tell you of a few incidences where I actually got bullied by old people when I was out and about. I mean, I got bullied by my own parents all the time, but uh, we won't even go there. They bully me no matter if they were old, young, juvenile, or losing their mind, just because, well, that's what parents do. That's part of their prerogatives. But anyway, I was on the bus one time with my good friend Kevin, and Kevin and I we were standing. There was no seat, and it was a really crowded bus. And we were actually quite a ways away from uh, the exit to get off the bus. And when the bus came to a stop, we had to wait for a whole bunch of people to clear out in front of us before we could exit the bus. Now, I'm not going to lie, I have always been rather wide in the torso. I've been always been kind of thick and stocky. So yes, when I stand in the aisle, it is very difficult for someone to get around me, especially if I have someone else, such as my friend Kevin, in this case, standing beside me. The two of us pretty much plugged out the walkway. But there wasn't anything we could do about it because there was a lot of people in front of us that there was no room, nowhere for us to go, no way for us to shift out of the way. And there was this elderly Cantonese lady. I knew she was Cantonese because that's what she was swearing at me in. This was an old Cantonese lady with an umbrella, and let me tell you, old lady with an umbrella, a very scary thing. That should be classified as a deadly weapon of assault. This elderly Cantonese lady right behind us started cussing us out, told us to get the blah 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 out of the way, and she was jabbing at me with her umbrella, just shoving at me and smacking me on the across the back with her umbrella. And I thought she was going to start kicking me and biting me anytime. And she was so irate, and there's nothing we could do. And I was thinking, anyone, anyone under the age of 60, take one look at me, wouldn't even consider doing something like that. Even if it was a person twice my size, take one look at me, wouldn't dream of doing something like that. But this little Chinese old lady who probably weighed as much as one of my legs dared to start wailing on me with her umbrella, cussing at me in Cantonese, and told me that I was inconsiderate and I should move out of the way, and she was in a hurry, and blah blah blah. Crazy, crazy. Old people sometimes can be really crazy. Now, how about this one? This one also happened on the bus. I was on a bus another time, another year, another place, and I was sitting in the seat reserved for the elderly and the disabled, up no, no, near the front of the bus. Minding my own business, the bus was pretty much empty, which means there was a seat everywhere. The bus came to a stop, and this elderly lady, this time was a Caucasian lady, elderly lady with a walker, came onto the bus, came over to my seat. Now, remember, there were seats everywhere. There was a seat across from me, there was a seat beside me. There was a lot of seats to pick from. She came over to me, this old lady in a walker, grabbed my shirt and started pulling on my shirt and said, "Get out, I want to sit here." That's exactly the word she used. "Get out, I want to sit here." I was in shock when that happened. And the first thing that went through my head was, I don't have to move. I have just as much right to sitting here because this seat was reserved for the disabled. And their seat right beside me. Why don't you sit down beside me? But then common decency kicked in, and I thought, if I was to sit here and argue with her, the bus driver going to start the bus, and this old lady is going to fall down, and it's going to be my fault. So I quietly stood up, walked across the aisle, and sat down in the empty seat across from where I was. Crazy. Old people can be crazy. There was also another instance where me and my mom, we were sitting at the bus stop. I don't know, a lot of these stuff happen at bus stops or on buses. Me and my mom, we were out shopping. This was back in 2017 when my mom came to visit me. So we went out shopping, and afterward we were at the bus stop waiting for the bus to come pick us up. And this elderly lady, who sounded like she could be European, and sounded like she didn't have a single tooth left in her head, came up to us, and she stood right in front of my mom, and she said to my mom, "Why don't you just go back to your own country and leave this place to decent white people?" I'm not even kidding you. It was like something so racist like that. Why don't you go back to your own country and leave this place for decent white people? My mom, who didn't speak a word of English, didn't understand what was being said to her, and she asked me, "What did the old lady say?" I said to my mom, uh, it's okay, never mind. She's she's drunk. She doesn't know what she's talking about. It's okay, nothing important." If I would have told my mom what this old lady said to her, there would have been problem because my mom is an old lady too. Not quite as old, but my mom is definitely in that age group where she's not going to take any kind of bad attitude from anybody because, yeah, she's as crazy as a lot of the other elderly people. There was even one time uh, when one of the parents or grandparents came to our martial arts studio to pick up their grandkids, and this old Chinese grandma went up to our receptionist and touched her face, like grabbed the skin of her face, her cheek, and said to her, "You are fat. You need to lose weight." Honestly, where, like, in which part of the world is that kind of behavior even acceptable? But for some reason, this old grandma thought it was okay, she could get away with it. Crazy. Nothing like senior citizen turned into bullies. That's more crazy than any other kind of bullies we can run into in this world. And now, after I just finished offending all my senior, kindly, elderly viewers, I will bid you a good night. We'll come back tomorrow for Music Monday. Well, tomorrow. It's actually today now. But anyway, who's keeping track anyway? Have a good night, and I will speak to you guys again soon.